Hi there, welcome to Algorand Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. So Algorand, last week we did a very interesting analysis, and this week we'll continue to look into both the weekly and daily chart and see how has it evolved. And it looks to me it's still going through a bit of uncertainty. So let's take a look at what's going on. Here, that's the weekly chart, and if you're new to this session, last week besides the yellow or the orange tags of the Wyckoff distribution, not distribution but accumulation cycle, the Wyckoff method, that's what I want to say, the Wyckoff method, but accumulation cycle, those are the orange tags. But then we also ask ourselves a question with these green tags over here. Those are the other hypotheses that we are possibly going through an accumulation cycle. Reason, if we look at just this, we won't notice that, but if I shrink this chart, we would be able to see this mini distribution cycle at a similar level as what we are going through now. So the question was, is the one that we are seeing, this mini peak and also falling into descending or declining trend, is this already a distribution cycle instead of something that happened back in something like that happened in late November all the way to January of this year. So basically last November we had this crazy leg up that went to around 50 cents. Well, the peak was higher, the peak was, or the highest price was around 60 cents, but this, the closing price, was around 50 cents, and the previous cycle, the upthrust was only at around 27 cents, so like around half of the peak. So these two compared, this one is like doubled of what we had back in March 2024. So that's why I was wondering, where we have it at around 29 cents or at the highest point around 34 cents was already the peak of the buying, like the distribution cycle for this round, and the price is actually coming down for another accumulation. So back then in June 2024, all the way to July, that's where the selling climax was. The price dropped to around 11 cents 50, the lowest point. The closing price was higher, 12 cents 50, but then eventually it has to go all the way to the spring level at around 11 cents, actually even lower. The lowest point was less than 10 cents. So that was the reality back in summer in 2024 all the way into the beginning of the fourth quarter until we had this massive distribution. Now we are still trying to observe which one is the exact case. If it is the orange scenario, this price decline looks like it's coming down for another test. Like you can call this just a test instead of a second test, because we had the second test already back in end of June. Assuming that's the case, this LPSY is same percentage possibility because it's a stage to go through before it gets to the preliminary supply. So that's scenario 1. And scenario 2, the green scenario, is the price is heading towards the selling climax. We don't see it yet because it's finding support at the yellow key level of 20 cents. But then when it tests it further, there is a chance for it to come down to show us a selling climax, and there may be the occasion, or maybe that's the occasion, let's put it this way, where we see a new accumulation cycle for Algorand. It may be taking a lead compared to other crypto, that haven't even started their distribution cycle. So Algorand may be running ahead over here if it really has towards a selling climax, but we don't know for sure, because I would say this is like a 50% chance for now, because if this is really the green scenario, another way it can happen is it rebound from the yellow key level, goes through the green key level of 24 cents, and eventually comes out to test the light blue key level, meaning that would be maybe even an upthrust scenario over here. So it's 50-50 right now. So either it comes down following this downward channel box, or it rebound and goes above this downward channel box, break outside of it, because in candlestick pattern analysis this is also a bull flag. So when that happens, there's a chance for it to challenge the 0.29 light blue key level and show us an upthrust. I'm just trying to draw a trend line to see whether there's a time point that indicates breakout would happen. So let me pull away this just to make sure these wicks are touching the line. So what we are seeing here is, just want to quickly check this as well. There's no, well, it's close enough to call a squeeze in the Bollinger Band and corner squeeze. So what I'm trying to do is double checking multiple indicators. The Bollinger Band and corner squeeze is quick enough, and then we have this triangle over here. You see, we have been in this declining trend since mid-July, and with this support at this level, for the next week and the week after, there is a high chance that a breakout will happen. So it either breaks above this downtrend and head towards the ceiling of this downward channel box, or it's going to break below the yellow key level of 20 cents and comes down to test this uptrend support line. So this uptrend support line is formed by the spring and the second test over here. So November last year and mid-June this year. When that happens, if the price really comes down to test this support line, if it successfully stays above that line, there's still a few more weeks, but when we get to like near the end of this month, October, there's another time point that a breakout event will have to happen. So it's a very complicated scenario over here. We've got one wedge or triangle over here, and other wedge over here, and eventually this wedge over here. This three lines crosses each other. But that's very far. That's back like all the way into late January, early February. So let's focus on the first two over here. This channel box, the way I'm seeing how the price is going, it's basically not making use of both the ceiling and the bottom of the box for like 8 weeks already, 9 weeks even, including this white candle over here. So this channel, I would say, is not a strong reference right now, because it doesn't, the price action doesn't show us this ping pong activity. This line, however, I would say is of a better reference as of now, because it obviously has been following this downtrend, or like being resisted by this resistance line since mid-July, and it keeps coming down to the breakout point that we just talked about. So in 2 weeks time, or maybe less, a breakout event would happen. By then we'll know whether it's going to confirm this downward channel box, this blue box, or is it to come all the way down to the test, like testing this orange key level of 0.16. So that's the big picture. Let's get to the daily. Again, daily doesn't have much of a squeeze. The purple lines are still way outside of the orange, but if the next 5 to 6 days it's going to trade in narrow range, the purple can quickly come into the orange. So what we had here, the price swinged downwards, but then it recovered a bit. If we add back all the lines that we have drawn, currently it's being rejected by this white dashed line that's extended all the way back to the buying climax, and then these LPSYs that we have. Let's adjust the line. Just want to make it closer to the tips of the LPSYs especially. So this yellow line formed by these sign of weaknesses, 3 of them, early August, early September, and mid-September. That's where the price got rejected today and yesterday. It's not even touching this white line yet, so there's a dual resistance. For the next 2 days, there's still room for the price to test this yellow dashed line at around 22 cents 75. But when the time goes on, when we get into next week, it is going to test this resistance line, and is the real test to see whether this is going to follow this downtrend, getting into this triangle just to go to a lower point, or is it going to break outside and show us basically some sideways trading, to be honest. Because if I extend this yellow line, what the price can do is it breaks outside of this white dashed line and then just keep bouncing between these 2 yellow lines, the solid and the dashed. This line over here, I would say is not as relevant as this longer one, because I was trying to test with these 2 LPSYs. Well, if I don't include the wick, it kind of make better sense if I draw to connect these 4 LPSYs. But then, like, if I don't include the wick, I really prefer not to have that kind of scenario. So I prefer to have the wicks included instead of this. But it doesn't harm. It's basically pointing towards the mid-October time point over here if the price is above the yellow. If it's below the yellow dashed line, and if we draw towards the solid, it's basically further down the line in mid-November. But let's remove it for simplicity's sake. It's sufficient to have this line over here. If this time point in late October, October 24th, so somewhere between now and then, it either break out to the upside or it's going to come down to test a lower level, this support line. And the second time point is the first week of November. So if it trades within this range, another breakout event would happen eventually. So let's remove all these drawings. So the very key is, since it looks like it's finding support above this yellow key level of 20 cents, it looks to me there is a chance that it's going to trade sideways when we come back to see it next week. So let's draw this line over here and see whether that's going to happen in this way. Not exactly like this wave, but if it does, it's really crazy. So this, the Wyckoff stage here, from all these coming down, I said, hey, would this be the preliminary support happening? And it may have already happened at this level, and we probably have seen the selling climax as well. What we have here may be an automatic rally. So I'm still keeping the question marks here, because the accumulation cycle back in June was way lower than where we are now. I'm just checking the weekly. to see if it is really bouncing towards the ceiling of the downward channel box. Maybe that's the occasion where we see another distribution. So if it comes down or like comes up to test the light blue key level, just switching to here quickly. Well, the ceiling is somewhere between the green and the blue, light blue. So it doesn't have to go as high as here. It may come somewhere in the middle. And that still follows what's happening in the weekly, and then eventually comes down. That can still be considered a buying climax in the daily time frame, if that the accumulation we are having for the next 1 to 2 weeks time before the breakout happens. PSY, still a bit too early to tell, because this looks to me an automatic rally. If it comes down, then it will eventually be a second test. So instead of selling climax, which already happened, the 70% goes to the second test now. That is it's going to come down to the second test level and eventually go to the upside to the new distribution. Maybe one with a pretty low buying climax. That is if it is really continuing the downtrend. If it's a green scenario in the weekly, then obviously this can go even higher. So again, cross-checking the weekly and daily is not an easy thing, so hopefully it's not too confusing for you. Thanks for joining me for Algorand today. I'm going to move on to the next session. See you over there.